In Part 9 of our recap of the Metal Gear series, we looked at Liquid Ocelot's ultimately successful and devastating attempts to take control of the system known as the Sons of the Patriots. In the 10th part of this series, we will take a look at how the conflict between Liquid and Snake comes to a head. We ended the previous installment of our recap of the Metal Gear series on a particularly sour note, with Eva dying in Snake's arms, half of Snake's face getting toasted to a crisp, Liquid gaining complete control over the system and, as a result, massacring countless soldiers gruesomely. All is not lost, though, and Snake's mission isn't done yet. Liquid Ocelot may have control over the Sons of the Patriots, but he doesn't have control over the Patriots themselves. And thanks to a special moment of resourcefulness from Otacon, he and Snake managed to deduce what Liquid plans to do next. He still very much intends to destroy the Patriots, and he aims to do that by destroying the satellite that controls JD, which is the main core AI of the Patriots' AI system. To do that, however, Liquid needs a weapon that is powerful enough to launch a missile into space. But, of course, it has to be a weapon that isn't controlled by the Patriots, one that is not governed by their network. You would think that he would have access to that easily now that he controls the SOP, but the only weapons powerful enough to be launched into space successfully are WMDs, or nuclear missiles, and those, as it turns out, are controlled by JD and not the system. Otacon reckons he knows exactly what Liquid Ocelot is planning. He plans to use the railgun that he himself had built into Metal Gear Rex almost a decade ago on Shadow Moses. They deduce that Liquid is going back to the island in Alaska, the place where this long-drawn, fateful conflict between the twin Snakes really kicked into gear. And so, Snake decides to head to Shadow Moses Island once again, making millions of Metal Gear fans squeal in unison. Snake lands on Shadow Moses and proceeds to walk through the very halls, fields, and locations that he did almost a decade ago during his first encounter with his brother Liquid Snake. As he reaches the snowfield where years ago he had fought and killed Sniper Wolf in the presence of a despondent Otacon, he meets with her doppelganger, Crying Wolf of the BB Corps. Snake engages in a lengthy sniper duel with her and ultimately emerges victorious. With another battle with the BB Corps out of the way, he proceeds forward to the hangar where Metal Gear Rex was kept 9 years ago, where Snake battled it for the first time, and where it still is. When he gets there, he finds that Vamp and Naomi are already there. Snake engages in another fight with Vamp, but this time he has the upper hand. For once, he knows the secret behind Vamp's apparent immortality: nano-frickin' machines, which means he also knows how to take him out. Snake administers, with the help of some good old CQC, a nanomachine suppressor injection on Vamp. The result of this is that Vamp is finally no longer immortal. He is, though, still very dangerous. It is at this point that Raiden shows up, having fully recovered from his injuries. Raiden and Vamp engage in an intense fight, while Snake fights off a swarm of suicide gecko that are swarming the base. Raiden sustains a number of wounds in his fight with Vamp, but ultimately manages to strike him down, dealing a lethal blow on him that is similar to what he did with Solidus Snake on the top of Arsenal Gear 5 years prior. Vamp, having mortal wounds for the first time ever, kills himself by injecting him with a full dose of nanosuppressants. At this point, Naomi apologizes to Raiden and Snake, revealing to them that she has been suffering from cancer, a cancer that she has only managed to keep at bay for so long thanks to, you know it, nanomachines. Overcome with guilt, she injects herself with nanosuppressants as well, effectively committing suicide, and dies at the same place where her brother Frank Yeager, aka Gray Fox, did 9 years ago. The base begins collapsing as Snake and company then climbs aboard a reactivated Metal Gear Rex. Fighting through Liquid's forces, Snake makes his way out, however Raiden is crushed beneath a huge pile of rubble. And what do you know? Liquid, who is always looking for ways to one-up his brother, arrives on the scene in his own Metal Gear unit, the amphibian Metal Gear Ray. The two then engage in an epic battle of the Metal Gears, and even though Ray is the superior model and was designed specifically to be able to defeat all manner of Rex units, the legendary Solid Snake manages to emerge victorious. Metal Gear Ray crashes to the ground, and Liquid Ocelot quickly turns around and makes his escape to the pier, while the injured Snake gives chase. As he does, he sees a massive figure emerging from the depths of the ocean. This is Outer Haven, Liquid's warship, which is modeled after Arsenal Gear itself. Liquid climbs aboard Outer Haven, while an injured, exhausted, and thoroughly weakened Snake collapses and falls to his knees. Liquid commands Haven to turn around and ram into the pier, to finally kill Solid Snake once and for all. Just as the warship is about to crash into the pier, Raiden arrives once again to save the day. It turns out he cut off his own arm to break free from the collapsed rubble, and as Haven is about to crash into the pier, Raiden placed himself in front of it. Thanks to a superhuman strength that his cyborg form has lent him, Raiden is able to hold the massive ship at bay and keep it from crashing into Snake. This gives Snake enough time to get back up and jump out of its way. The pier crumbles behind Raiden, and soon his strength gives way, and the ship crashes into him. The USS Missouri arrives on the scene, captained by none other than Mei Ling, who, as you might remember, helped Snake in a supporting role during the Shadow Moses incident. Snake and Raiden, who is still somehow alive thanks to his cyborg-enhanced body, climb aboard, and it is here that they plan their final assault on Liquid. Liquid Ocelot is now in possession of Rex's railgun, and he intends to launch a nuke to destroy the JD satellite. To do so, his warship Haven would need to surface from below the depths of the ocean. Snake and company decide that it is at this point that the USS Missouri will attack Haven. Drebin also chips in his own way, providing some ID-free weapons to soldiers aboard the Missouri that are free of the system's control. Thanks to the fact that Liquid has complete control over the SOP, a direct strike against him or his forces would be completely useless. As such, it is decided that a small strike team will be sent to infiltrate Outer Haven. Snake volunteers to be a part of this strike team, seeing as he is on death watch anyways, and that thanks to the decade-old mutated fox dye, he will soon become a biological weapon. Meryl and Johnny, meanwhile, also volunteer. What is to be the purpose of this strike team? To infiltrate Haven, sneak into the ship's core, and upload a worm cluster into its core AI, which is basically a renewed version of Arsenal Gear's GW. This worm cluster was built together by Sunny and Naomi Hunter while they were aboard the Nomad together. What it will do once uploaded into GW is stop the nuclear strike from happening and wipe GW's programming. The two warships clash, commencing the climactic battle, with the USS Missouri having to contend with blows not just from Outer Haven, but also from a number of Metal Gear Ray units as well. In the heat of the battle, Snake, Meryl, and Johnny are catapulted onto Liquid's ship. However, thanks to faults with the insertion method, the three of them end up getting separated, and Snake ends up having to sneak through Haven alone. He fights through hordes of Liquid Ocelot soldiers and eventually comes face to face with Screaming Mantis, the nano-enhanced psychic member and leader of the Beauty and the Beast unit. After a grueling battle, Snake emerges victorious. However, the mechanical remains of Screaming Mantis become active all of a sudden, and this is where the Psycho Mantis appears. However, before he is able to do anything, he is taken care of by the Sorrow, who says the exact same thing he said to Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 3. The spirit of the warrior will always be with you. Snake is rejoined soon by Meryl and Johnny, who help him fend off swarms of Liquid soldiers and troopers. The two decide to stay behind to hold off the troopers while Snake proceeds toward the GW core. Running dangerously low on ammo, Meryl and Johnny are being swarmed by a seemingly endless stream of soldiers. And then, in typical ridiculous and over-the-top Metal Gear fashion, in the middle of a heated battle, Johnny proclaims his love for Meryl and then asks her to marry him. Meryl, who always wants to do things her own way, rejects the proposal, and then proposes to him herself. Johnny gladly accepts, and the two continue their seemingly hopeless battle against an endless swarm of enemy soldiers. As Snake is drawing closer to the GWAI's core, he realizes that he will have to cross a microwave energy emitting corridor to get to his destination. At this point, the unbelievably resilient and armless Raiden shows up, offering to go forward in Snake's place. He tells him that his body is completely mechanical, and as such, he would be better suited for the task ahead. Snake tells Raiden that unlike him, the young man still has a future ahead of him. Raiden agrees to stay behind and hold off an approaching wave of enemy soldiers, allowing Snake to carry out the final leg of this long-drawn mission. As Snake moves forward through the corridor, Raiden engages in a fierce battle against a number of soldiers, and despite being heavily outnumbered and, get this, having no arms, he manages to hold his own, at least initially. Things start looking sour for him soon, though. Meanwhile, Snake moves through the microwave corridor, and the energy being emitted does a great deal of damage to him and all of the equipment he has on him. An already exhausted, aged, weakened, and battered Snake is being weakened even further. Despite all odds, Snake finally manages to make it into the server room, and just as he is being swarmed by countless dwarf gecko units, Otacon uploads the worm cluster into the GW server. With the worm cluster uploaded, the battle quickly turns. The Metal Gear Ray units attacking the Missouri shut down, as do the dwarf gecko units surrounding Snake in the server room. Meanwhile, the soldiers surrounding Raiden, Meryl, and Johnny all descend into hysterics as their nanomachines go offline. As Snake lies exhausted in the server room, a video of Naomi Hunter shows up on screen, having been programmed into the worm cluster itself. And she explains that just what happened thanks to the upload of the worm cluster is much more monumental than anyone could have imagined. The dead Dr. Naomi Hunter reveals to Snake via her video message that the worm, which she had named Fox Alive, had actually used the GW AI as a conduit to get into the Patriots network, and then proceed to destroy the cores of all AIs in their system, as well as shutting down the SOP system for good, thus bringing the war economy to a halt while maintaining other crucial structures for modern civilization. She reveals that the Patriots had planned to extend their nanomachine-based control to the entire civilian population, not just soldiers. Naomi was not willing to let this happen, and as such, she decided to shut down the Patriots' entire network. She admits to misleading Otacon and Snake and apologizes to them for the same. Snake, exhausted and thoroughly weakened, slips into unconsciousness. But if there's one thing Metal Gear fans can be sure of at this point, after having been through so much with so many characters through so many years, it's that it's not over yet. Snake comes to on top of Outer Haven, and he is not alone. Liquid Ocelot is there too. Liquid tells Snake that the upload of this cluster has been his master plan all along, since he wanted the Patriots destroyed and gone for good. He then goes on to explain a great number of things in excruciating detail to Snake. The history of the philosophers, of Cypher, of the Patriots, the split in Cypher, and the resulting war between Big Boss and Major Zero. Liquid proclaims that now, finally, after so many years, Big Boss's dream of Outer Heaven had finally come to pass. He challenges Snake to a final 1v1 duel. The two engage in a dramatic, enthralling CQC fight, and as the fight progresses, Liquid's persona begins to fade away, while that of Revolver Ocelot begins to resurface, after years and years of being suppressed. Snake eventually beats Ocelot. Yes, Ocelot, not Liquid anymore, who finally dies atop Outer Haven. Otacon arrives and informs Snake that while Sunny was developing Fox Alive with Naomi, she made sure that it wouldn't result in the complete destruction of the Patriots network. Essentially, in Otacon's own words, Fox Alive had been designed to destroy the brain but leave the brain stem intact. What this means is that while the Patriots' AIs have been shut down for good, removing the control that they exercised over everyone and everything, Fox Alive preserved the energy, framework, and resource networks that have become essential to modern society. Essentially, even with the Patriots gone, the world would not be plunged into chaos. And now we're finally moving into the territory of tying up loose ends, as we begin to talk about the game's epilogue. A month has now passed since the climactic battle between the twin snakes, and while it hasn't necessarily been a happy ending for all concerned, especially the world at large, what with the economy having crashed and everything, things are still looking up. Somewhat. It starts with the wedding of Meryl and Johnny, with the likes of Otacon, Sunny, Drebin, and Mei Ling all in attendance. Colonel Campbell also decides to attend. Father and daughter finally bury the hatchet, and the Colonel gives his daughter away at the ceremony. Drebin later tells Otacon that all Drebins, him included, were actually agents of the Patriots, which is why they all had access to weapons that were free of nanomachines. Drebin tells Otacon that he had been instructed by the Patriots to assist Snake in his mission to assassinate Liquid, but they simply had no idea that the very mission would have ended in their own destruction. Drebin, however, tells Otacon that he harbors no ill will towards Snake or anyone else involved in the shutdown of the Patriots, since he too finally has the freedom that he never had due to the Patriots' control. He additionally reveals to Otacon that Rat Patrol 1, Meryl's units of soldiers, had also been unwitting agents of the Patriots. Rat Pat 01 in fact is an anagram for Patriot, PATR10T. Meanwhile, Sunny asks Otacon about the whereabouts of Snake, to which a teary Otacon says that Snake needs rest. Raiden, meanwhile, is recovering from his many injuries. While in the hospital, he is visited by an unexpected guest. His ex-fiancée, Rose, walks in along with a young boy and admits to some startling revelations. She tells Raiden that the young boy is John, Raiden's own son, and then reveals that her marriage to the Colonel and her miscarriage had both been ploys conceived by the Colonel to keep her, Raiden, and their son safe from the Patriots. Raiden takes one look at John, his son, and any and all resentment and anger he had been harboring towards Rose vanishes. The three of them embrace, finally giving Raiden the happy ending that he deserved but never got. What, we hear you ask, of our hero, Snake? Well, he's old and he's dying, not to mention the fact that with every day he draws breath, he becomes closer and closer to turning into a walking biological weapon. As such, he decides that he has one last mission to complete, to take his own life, and as a result, destroy the mutated strain of Foxdie. Snake visits the grave of Big Boss, puts a gun to his head, but ultimately he is unable to go through with it. And it's a good thing too, because as he turns around, he sees someone standing there and looking at him, someone he thought he would never see again, Big Boss himself. As it turns out, the body that Liquid Ocelot had burned back in Eastern Europe hadn't been that of Big Boss, but of Solidus Snake. Since Solidus Snake was the perfect clone of Big Boss, his DNA had been enough to break into the SOP. Big Boss informs Snake that he isn't here to fight with him, somberly telling him that it is time to put aside the gun and live. He tells Snake that Ocelot hadn't really been possessed by Liquid Snake. He had been carrying forward with the mission himself Eva and Big Boss had been working towards for decades, that of taking down Cypher, or the Patriots as they came to be known. As such, Ocelot had to fool the Patriots into thinking that he had been possessed by Liquid Snake, so that he could carry out his plans to destroy their core AIs. To do this, he used a combination of intense psychotherapy and, you'll never see this one coming, nanomachines to turn himself into Liquid's doppelganger. This is, of course, somewhat similar to how Venom Snake was turned into a clone of Big Boss all those years ago, through plastic surgeries, hypnosis, and psychotherapy. He then goes on to explain just how the Patriots eventually evolved, or devolved, into a system of AIs. Remember Skullface, the leader of XOF? Of course you do. Remember how, through the capture of Paz all of those years ago, he eventually managed to track down the location of Major Zero, and through an elaborate plan, managed to take him out of the game. We spoke about this in great length earlier in the series, but here's a brief reminder anyways. Among other reasons and convoluted motivations, Skullface wanted to take over the control of Cypher, and to do so, he permanently took Zero out of the equation. Well, he didn't kill the Major, but rather made him very, very sick, eventually turning him into a vegetable. As Zero was descending quickly towards a life of essentially a lifeless husk, he made plans to make sure that his vision for Cypher, aka the Patriots, would be fulfilled, and that his interpretation of the boss's will would see the light of day. As such, thanks to the massive resources he had at his disposal in the form of the Philosopher's Legacy, he and Donald Anderson, inspired by Hot Coldman's usage of the boss's AI in Peace Walker, decided to make an entire network of AIs, and decided that they would use the Big Boss's own DNA to act as a key to the AI network. And who did they turn to make these AIs? Why, none other than Dr. Strangelove, the very woman who had made the boss's AI itself. These AIs, they decided as their final backup plan, would inherit the remainders of Cypher and go on to rule humanity. They also decided that information control was just a necessary evil that they simply had to use as a precaution. However, Big Boss explains to Solid Snake even Major Zero hadn't foreseen that the AI would interpret the Patriots' philosophy in such a twisted way. Thanks to the fact that the AIs had been made self-learning and been given free rein in deciding how they would operate, their interpretation of the boss's will turned out to be much more twisted and devastating than even that of, say, Major Zero or Big Boss. Big Boss shows Snake an elderly, wheelchair-bound man that he has brought with him. He tells him that this vegetative man, who is on a life support machine, is Major Zero. The Big Boss remarks that until all of the founders of the Patriots were gone, they would never truly be destroyed. He remarks how Eva, Ocelot, Sigint, and Paramedic are all dead, and then proceeds to shut down Major Zero's life support system, finally killing him after all of these years. The implication of this, of course, is that Big Boss is now the last remaining Patriot. When Snake asks if this means that Big Boss is going to kill himself too, he tells him that while he is going to die, he isn't going to have to kill himself. And that is thanks to the new Foxdie virus that was injected into Snake by Drebin. While it seemed like they had died by succumbing to their own injuries, it was actually this Foxdie strain that had targeted and killed Eva and Ocelot, and it is this very strain that is also programmed to kill Big Boss himself. Big Boss also explains to Snake that this new Foxdie strain actually replaced the old, mutated one, meaning that there was no danger of Snake becoming a biological weapon. While the new strain would also eventually mutate and turn openly hostile with a lack of any programmed targets, Snake, thanks to his accelerated aging, simply wouldn't be able to live long enough for that to be able to happen. The Foxdie strain then soon starts taking effect on Big Boss. As he is moments away from his death, he asks Snake to help him walk over to the grave of the boss, the woman who essentially started it all. Big Boss stands over her grave one last time and tells Snake that he finally understands the real meaning of the boss's will. He tells Snake that it's not about changing the world or uniting it as one as so many people had tried to do in her name, but about letting it be as it is. Big Boss asks Snake to live whatever life he has left peacefully. Father and son share a last smoke together as the two come to peace with each other. And lying over the grave of his former mentor, Naked Snake, Big Boss, the man who sold the world, finally dies. Solid Snake, on the other hand, decides to live the remainder of his life with Otacon and Sunny. And there we have it, the complete story of the Metal Gear Saga from start to finish. After approximately 34,000 words and over 190 minutes of collective footage, this massive undertaking finally comes to an end, and we really hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, please tell us what you thought of it, or if you think we missed anything of importance in the comments section below. We are also considering an additional video that answers some of the biggest questions in the series, but we need you, our community, to say what questions they want answered. So please let us know in the comment section below. Additionally, if you have any ideas or suggestions for which game or series we should tackle next in our story recap features, please let us know via your comments below. Thanks for watching.
Snake, wait up! You forgot these.
No thanks. I'm quitting.
Snake!
These things will kill you.
Where will you go? Our fight is finished. There's nothing left for us to do.
No. There's one thing I still have to do. I have to see this age off. See what the future brings.
Sounds good to me. I'll go with you.
Otacon, I'm gonna be dead soon. You don't have to come.
You said it yourself, Snake. There's nothing inside you can pass on to the next generation. No genes, no memes. You're man-made. You're a beast.
I know. A blue rose. There won't be any happy Beauty and the Beast ending for me. What little time I have left will be spent living as a beast. A shadow of the inside, of the old age.
Exactly. That's why you need me. As a witness.
A witness?
Yeah. Someone on the outside to bear witness to your final days. Someone to pass on your story. Not that I'm the only witness. But I'll remember everything you were. And stick with you to the end.
Otacon.
Besides, you wouldn't let me suffer Sonny's eggs alone, would you?
Come quick! They're ready! They look yummy! Sort of like the sun. It's rising again.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.